in the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions. Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, SOUQ Enlightenment. We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. It's a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday afternoon and we are here. It's always nice being part of this program at this time of the day and knowing very well that you are there, part of the conversation, part of this particular program, and we'll say thank you. Thank you for yesterday and thank you for today. We are about to dive into something that I won't say controversial, but every one of us will see ourselves in the picture of what we are talking about today. It's SOUQ Pulse. We talk, we discuss, we iron out issues. We look ourselves in the face and tell ourselves, don't keep silent. If you're losing money in the business, if your neighbor, there is no food on the table, if I say you now, you say something like blood of. If that particular country of yours is finding it difficult to pay back that loan they took from those international organizations, and they are telling you policies that you don't understand, but your government and the people are saying that this is the way forward. We'll get to talk about it. If Asia is doing something strange, like new trade policies, policies on accommodation, policies on the building material industry, or a different industry that we might not even have gotten our heads on, AI. We'll talk about it. I will tell you, don't keep silent. My name is John-Rogers Chuks, and I still have those handsome people you saw me yesterday. I had to rope them in for today. So if anybody decides to take offense in what we are talking about today, you look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I am the one that is guilty. We are going on a short break, and when we return, SOUQ Pulse and our discussion will start in earnest. Every single hour, every single minute of this particular program today, we'll use it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
Watching SOUQ
News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need the same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to SOUQ News. You don't touch that dial.
Welcome back. It's still SOUQ Pulse, and today we are looking at things people shy away from. This particular topic they shy away from. They don't want to talk about it. Some consider it taboo. Some say you're talking against. However you want to say it is, but we need to face ourselves, look ourselves in the eye and tell ourselves some particular truth. If we need to get productive in Africa, then we must address issues. Before I talk about our topic, least I say it and my guest decide to run, let me introduce them first. I still have with me Dr. Sam, Mr. Sam. He's the director for, Center for Public Policy. Sir, you're welcome to SOUQ Pulse again.
My pleasure.
Yes. So sit. I'm holding his hand. And on this other side, I have Mr. Ikenna Mba. He is a media professional. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chuks.
Thank you very much. So yeah, what are we talking about? We are looking at religion. You heard me right. We are looking at religion in Africa. Religion in Africa. Now we are putting it against religion, discipline, work ethics. Then lastly, productivity. Then we are asking ourselves, what version of religion do we practice, was taught to us, was passed across to us in Africa? Let's look at our productivity level. If we say, what has Africa brought to the market in the last 10, 15 years? If we compare what is coming from here, what we are pushing out, and what other clients are pushing out, we are pushing out 1.9% in trade. That is shameful. Our population is 1.64 billion. It's only India that is a little bigger than us. We are bigger than every other person. Okay, China is a country, but we are still bigger than China. Others, we are more than them. Now let's ask ourselves some strict questions. When we come down here to Africa, we get to see big, gigantic places of worship, like in other climes. But in other climes, we also get to see bigger, greater number of factories, small businesses thriving, big production houses. But when we come to Africa, take for example Nigeria, we see factories shrinking. We see production houses running away. In place of those same factories, those particular facilities, those buildings, we see religious bodies turning them into places of worship. Now, where are the people worshiping there going to work? because they have to go there and pray that God should give them a job. So where are they going to work? That is what we are talking about today. Where did we get our version of religion from? So, sir, you're welcome to SOUQ PULSE.
My pleasure.
Good. I hope you are at home.
I'm always at home.
Thank you very much. So, sir, let's start with you. Has it always been like this?
I think the challenge here for Africa is that we live in an environment where everything is determined by controlling factors that seems to be beyond the average person. So religion, like Karl Marx, regrettably, if you view from the Nigerian perspective, define it as an opium, something you use to energize people. Religion has become a problem in Africa, where every action is spiritualized in quotes. This is not to denigrate anybody's faith and value, but then where everybody see the religious figurehead as somebody who has the capacity to see the future and who has the talisman, in quotes, to determine your future, then everybody has become so dependent on the man who has the crystal ball to see the future. So,
the man who has a crystal ball to see the future.
I use those words advisedly, and the way I pronounce it shows that I'm putting it in quotes. Okay. I don't want to use quote and unquote.
Okay.
When I emphasize the word...
Can you introduce us to the man who has the crystal ball?
No, that is the assumption. I've laid the background that
okay. We
African
should join you in this assumption.
Yes. No, it's not. It's based on the cosmology of African.
Okay.
That everything that surrounds you is controlled by a superior being, which is of a truth, but then you have elevated that and put that in the hand of a fellow man who become an intermediary between you and your spiritual father somewhere. Then this, again, before people even take their breakfast, they need to consult their pastor whether there's a need to even have a breakfast. So when the permission is given, so that is the level to which we are.
If I follow what you just said now,
yes,
I will become a pastor after this show. But hold on to this particular thought. Now let's come this way. We have a thriving religious practice in Nigeria and West Africa and some other parts of Africa.
Correct.
We don't have a thriving industry in Nigeria and in other parts of Africa.
Sadly.
As much as we have this. But if we follow the teachings of the holy books, it tells us that if we want to serve God, we need to work. He that does not work should not eat. If you can't feed your family, then you are worse than an infidel. Is it not? Good.
Correct.
So at what point in time have we left the real teachings of the holy books to follow religion?
Well, it's a problem that has been long-standing for a while. People tend to take the scripture of the holy book, you know, for the Muslims, the Quran, for the Christians, the Bible. They tend to have read it upside down, if I may put it that way, because like you said, and like the book says, if you don't work, you don't eat. But people tend to want to only just pray and then expect things to just happen for them. One of the reasons that is happening is because one of the many reasons, myriads of reasons, is the people teaching you the scriptures are not teaching you the right things. The people you have put all of your belief in are not teaching you the right things, because if they were teaching you the right things, you would know for sure that it says watch and pray. It says pray and then work. You don't pray. For instance, you sit in your house, you wake up in the morning, you just sit down, you just say a prayer and say, let today go really fantastic for me, whatever you worship or whatever, and you sit pretty and just wait for things to happen. That's the part we have gotten to as a people in Nigeria, which is a problem. And that is also fast making the problem of organizations manufacturing disappear and are being replaced by these really big and huge, massive places of worship.
Is it that we are leaving what we're supposed to do and passing the buck to God?
Yes.
Like, okay,
that's what we're doing.
I wake up this morning, dear Lord, I need $100,000.
And you sit and wait for it. That's not how it works.
So where should I wait for it?
The problem is, after you say that prayer, you begin to work. Because it also says that your maker...
Are they being taught in these religious places to go ahead and
That's
work?
what I'm saying. A few people are teaching that. Majority are not. For instance, I live somewhere, right? I have a church I would not mention that's directly opposite my house, right? There's church and there's service Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Now, if you have services and you're screaming and shouting daily, where is that time that you work and expect your prayers to be answered? That's 100,000 you asked for. When is it going to come? Will it meet you in church? Will it meet you at home?
Hold on. You still living there?
Oh, yes.
Okay, hold on.
I'm operating selective deafness. So that's what's happening.
Okay. Now, if we look at Africa, it's good to be religious, but it's more important to know God. Those are two different things. Now, in our religiosity, in our quest to be religious, we have the numbers. Every Friday, the amount of people that go to pray in the mosque is massive. Every Friday. Same thing happens on Sundays. The amount of people that get into the church to worship is massive. How can the leaders of this particular worship centers start turning these members into a workforce? If it has to be by force,
church leaders,
whether it's church leaders or how can we start turning them into a workforce to get productive?
I will step back a little by saying that the brand of Pentecostal movement that came in the late 70s to the 80s has changed the brand of Christianity in Africa, where the gospel of prosperity above values, above entrepreneurship, has now been a commonplace in Africa. So we need to underscore that where prosperity, as it were, has become the common currency of evangelism, where take it and cash it right away has changed. And on the other hand, if you look at the graph of religiosity and corruption, you'll be surprised that the currency of religion, if it's the way it's practiced, then the level of corruption in Africa should have reduced substantially. So if you look at the correlation between the so-called religiosity, in quotes, and that of corruption, it gives you some serious concern to be worried. Number two, the African cosmology that I said later, even the Pentecostal movement in terms of practice has taken the garb of some African religion, where some practice that is alien even to the holy books, whatever holy books that you pretend to subscribe to. The point being made here is that nobody quarrels about your spirituality, about your relationship with God. But when you elevate spirituality into your value, and that value does not translate into productivity, it becomes a problem. And that's why you mentioned earlier that places of manufacturing has been bought over by churches,
places of
worship, mosque, whatever name you call them. Then there's another focus that we're not really African religion practice.
Before we get to this focus,
I need to underscore that before we can move in that direction. I'm just laying the background. On the other hand, you have an African religious practice that is supporting same propensity for people not to work. And now you have some people, some categories of people placing demand on some doctors who are practitioners of African religion that you take a particular somebody's something, then when you do that, you now make money. These are contradictions that we need to resolve as a country. Your spirituality is not in doubt, but when you elevate spirituality as a driver of everything and people don't want to work, then you have all kinds of shenanigans in the society that has brought us to this point that we are.
Okay. Now we are going to go on a break. Before we get back, we will align and get some more information across to you. But hey, don't go anywhere. I guess you can see yourself in the mirror right now, right? Hey, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, SOUQ, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged SOUQ 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Arts Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company, mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of large green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, SOUQ Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Agility Obi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching SOUQ News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to SOUQ News for your news requirements.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Hello and welcome back. It's still SOUQ Pulse, and we are talking religion, discipline, productivity, hard work. Work first, then before you now work it harder. And we're asking ourselves straight question: where did we get our version of religion from? basically because that work is not there. The productivity, as we speak right now, is in the negative compared to where these religions came from. Now, there are two different things between knowing God and being religious. Hope you know that. Now, sir, let's come to discipline. If we have this amount of people pouring into the mosque on Friday and this amount of people pouring into the church on Sundays, why are we still having serious issues with discipline as it pertains to work?
I try to underscore the origin of the indiscipline that is occasioned by what we call a brand of Pentecostalism that is dependent on prosperity, where miracle has become the basis of human existence. Miracle do occur, but we're not saying that you should not have respect for God. But where a country is overtly dependent on prosperity without works, it becomes a challenge. And that's where we are currently. But when you try to draw a relationship between discipline, hard work, and the very foundational belief system that is a major driver of various religious faiths and practices, then there's a very big disconnect. And if you plot the graph, particularly in Nigeria, we are overtly religious by every other means, but deeply corrupt. So you cannot draw the relationship between that value proposition that the religious bodies as a collective are supposed to project in society, then you have people walking in the other direction.
Is our being religious a title? Have we seen it more of a title than being a way of a changed life?
That is the point I've just made. Foundationally, those belief systems that values are anchored on does not really speak to hard work, productivity, and discipline. So the value proposition in terms of national productivity or national value does not exist because you are professing a belief system that you don't live by. So when it comes to sharing of money, then your religion becomes on the background. But then you have an overt image of, permit my word, of holier than thou that is in the public space. But then when you talk about corruption, these people are in the front rows of various worship centers. Then I was trying to underscore the other very dangerous practice based on the African religious belief where they say if you bring SYZ, then you make millions of naira. So
are we going to take that as African belief or African religion? That's
whatever you call it, because it's based
those are
on,
just some
no,
lost,
it's based
people
on,
lost.
No, it's based on some basic principles and practice. And I
it's
said
it's not just peculiar to Africa.
No,
That's
I understand that.
Where you are
I'm
going
just
to is
no, I'm just trying to
global.
underscore that. No, I'm just trying to underscore that. That's on the one hand. Even those who prefer some level of religiosity based on their various consideration has even infused the practice of African religion into some of what they do. People place their head somewhere, people put hands somewhere, and make here chuks. Is that you cannot sustain value when people live based on value that are not existential. What it means is that you profess something, but you cannot live that value. And that's why we are here. And like you painted earlier, if you go to Nkeja industrial estates, some of those factories that were shut down have been bought over by churches. Again, then becomes a concern to the government. Where does this monies come from? That's another challenge.
Which of the monies? The monies from
the
religious
monies
bodies?
That the churches use to make massive investment, buying over factories that were built for production, but now they are occupied, well painted. There are a lot of marketing gimmicks that drive those processes.
Okay, hold on to this thought. Now let's come this way. We're looking at productivity. That's our core interest, productivity. Now, we have a lot of religious bodies, be it the Christians, be it the Muslims. They invested in universities.
Good.
Now, if they can invest in universities, most of those universities are not free. Can we also tell them, if you can invest in the university and be successful at it, why not also open up and look for a sphere of industry, productive industry, manufacturing industry, and also invest? That way, people within your congregation have jobs to do and are gainfully employed. Don't you think that is where their eye and their interest should also lie?
I agree with you totally. I agree with you. But you see, many, like I said earlier, many of them are, what's the word now? Profit-driven. So when you open a school...
Industry is also profit-driven.
No, but you see, industry takes time. You produce, you design, you produce, you market, you wait for it to come back to you. Schools, you open the school, the money comes to you, you pay school fees, and that's it. You get it going, you keep it moving. So many of them would choose schools. But you see, it's hard to find those that genuinely care for people, which is where I agree with you about them getting involved with opening manufacturing companies, organizations that can boost the economy, help the people get jobs, because those schools you talk about, majority cannot even afford for their wards, their children to be in those schools. We know education is expensive, but majority of your congregation cannot be in those schools. So yes, they should, first of all, show that you care about people, because I think church is people-driven. The people are the church. So if you care enough, you would willingly not even be prodded to invest in manufacturing companies that would help the people that attend your churches.
Okay, I asked this question earlier, but I think I need a deeper answer to it. So let me reframe it. If you were to be a head of a religious body, will you tell your members that if they don't work, they shouldn't come here and pay offering, or come here and drop any form of, collect any form of felicitation, whatever? If they are gainfully employed, then good and fine. If they are heading to be gainfully employed, then good and fine. If they seek help to be gainfully employed, then good and fine. Will you push the agenda or the message of work?
I think it will be difficult to make a definitive statement of the views that people should not bring offering, because that's a command. So based on their spiritual understanding, they may want to do that. But then we must equally underscore the importance of this. The church and the mosque, they are social institutions, and they are centers of a socialization process. So I think the point of socialization has missed its very essence. So it behoves on religious leaders to teach their congregation about the principles and practice of enterprise as espoused in the various religious books. So in that regard, therefore, if I was a church leader, in specific term, I will encourage my congregants to focus on the issues of hard work, issues of productivity, and that wealth come through enterprise. Then when that has happened, then your religious obligation of tithing, of offering, of first fruits, whatever name that is called, can be brought to the storehouse of God. So, but when I say that when you talk about them becoming manufacturing company, is a misnomer, because the church itself is a social institution. It can provide some services that can cater for some of the members of the church, but they are not really in socialization process to be profit-making enterprise. Those that have found themselves building schools, we actually attended mission school, but the way they were run, they were not run as a profit-driven enterprise, like what we
Okay.
see.
Can I cut you there?
Yeah.
Now, if the church or the mosque can go to NUC, University Commission, or go to any other body in different countries and get a university accredited and run a secondary school that is private, why can't the church also directly open up a manufacturing firm? No, even if not in their name, why can't they fund somebody or
when you talk
get
about
somebody
education,
to open?
Education is part of the social institution.
A manufacturing firm is what? A manufacturing
Those are
firm
commercial enterprises.
Education is not, the schools are not commercial enterprises.
You can pay money to get education. But when you ask church now to be profit-driven center in terms of manufacturing, in my view, I think that's going beyond the call to duty.
Can they support people with
They are already supporting. They are already supporting enterprises by building schools. Some of them have.
We are looking at manufacturing endeavors. That's what we are looking at right now. We need to get people within these worship centers working. We need to get Nigeria and Africa productive. So wherever we have these numbers of people,
should be encouraged to be entrepreneurs.
Within those places,
should be encouraged rather than like Ikena said a while ago, where you call people for service Monday through to Sunday. What time would they have? And that's why I use that concept of economic prosperity, and people don't want to work, where everything is not driven by the concept of miracle. I'm not saying that miracle don't occur, but then when an entire civilization, an entire people is not configured to think that once you pray and you find time to hang around the church, the manners will fall from heaven. I think that's a very wrong socialization. Okay. So that socialization process must change, that for us to do well as a people, for existential living, people must put their hand to work. And the holy books across board, including African religion, speaks to those facts, that God will bless the work of your hand.
Okay.
I'm careful not to use verses of specific, because we're speaking to general discussion. So I don't want to be pigeonholed to represent a particular faith, because this is a general subject matter.
Okay. Now let's bring it this way. When we have a collage of people, a community of people in a specific place, in a specific church, in a specific mosque, if we put them together, this is a population. Mm-hmm. And this particular population is not as productive as we need them to be, because it's the people that get to work in a nation. It's the people that grind and make sure that the economy is moving.
Correct.
Now, good. We have these numbers in the mosques. We have these numbers in the churches. For the traditional worshippers, sad to say, a lot of them are still Muslims or Christians. They mix. They could mix. Now, how can we be able to address these issues? Are we looking at the members, or are we looking at the leaderships of these particular places? Where should we start addressing this issue of low productivity? Should we hit it at the members or hit it at the leaders of these particular bodies?
First of all, I think there's a social engineering that's going on, where the people are conditioned not to work. How do I mean? When you hear what the churches call testimonies, you talk about something that's happened to you. Oh, I gave X amount of money, and before the end of the next day, I got twice or 3 times that. It's social engineering.
Is that betting?
It's social engineering, because when you hear people say that, and they've been conditioned to say that, other people, what other people do is, maybe if I give X amount, then X amount will come to me the next day. So now, as this spirals and it cycles, people are not encouraged to work. So that social engineering has to stop. Now we're coming to the leaders. Your message must begin to change. Like I said, majority of them are socially engineering these people, because when you step back and think about how someone, like I said earlier, will go to a place of worship from Monday to Monday, when do you get time to work? Some people have argued, yeah, people work from home, or people have their monies working for them as they sleep. I know that. But we're looking at the congregation. We're looking at the people going to the mosques.
How
we're looking
many
at people going to the
people? How many
churches.
people have their monies working for them?
Exactly my point. That's what I'm saying. So people tend to use that to defend this misnomer, right? Which is wrong. So we start from the leadership. What are you saying to the people? This social engineering must stop. One. Secondly, the people. What are you doing? Are you checking? Like, you are encouraged to test what you hear. It's like I tell you something now, like we talked about yesterday, misinformation. When you hear something, do you check it, or do you just take it in whole hook, line, sinker?
The leader of the worship place said so. Papa said so.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that these two people, the two parties are guilty. Starting with the leadership, you must begin to change your message and begin to tell the people that, listen, when you hear this, this is supposed to encourage you or energize you to work, to want to work, which is what the good book, both ways, Muslim or Christian, says in the first place. Then now the people don't get carried away with wanting to live a life of miracles every day. Because if we look at the history of miracles, it happens once in a while. As
you woke up this morning.
Yes.
You're okay.
Yes.
That's a miracle.
Now that's, if you think about it, that's, I might not see it from that lens that you're seeing it. Because
that is God's gift. Every of God's gift is a miracle.
But that's not what I'm referring to.
Okay.
What I'm referring to is, instead of working, you go to a place of worship and say, pray for me so that this thing, I'll get a car tomorrow. That's what I mean. So you wanting to live that life continuously or daily is a misnomer.
Okay. Now, sir, let's bring this. Let's talk some bit of history. We had an industrial revolution in the West. And a lot of that revolution was championed by religious organizations. And they were successful. Now, I look back at Africa and I ask myself, where exactly are we getting this wrong? Now, if we look, you said something about religious organizations being a social gathering. I might not agree with you.
I didn't use the word social gathering. It's a social institution.
Social institution. Okay. Now I will now tend to ask, what do you mean by social institution? But that will be for another day. Now let's face what we are looking at today. If we say our religious organizations, our religious bodies, our religious gatherings, the number, I'm looking at majorly the number of this particular people gathering in these places. If we want them productive, now from the government side of it, how can government start making that demand? If you are heading a government place and you have to speak to this, what will you say?
Don't put me on the spot. I'm not currently working for government.
I'm just saying if you are, because we have to get
the
there.
The point is, I think it has come to a level why I canvass that religious institutions continue to be registered as trustees and community-based organization. There needs to be some sanity in terms of looking at the books to a very large extent. That will bring some sanity into the place.
We're looking at the books make the members productive.
No, I'm coming because when there's a control, the number of people...
But government can't control religious bodies.
To a very large extent, it's controlled elsewhere, so we can control it here. It's controlled elsewhere. In the UK, for example, there are extent to which you can.
You are accountable to a particular extent.
Yes, even though you are registered as a charity.
Now, how can government make them productive?
So first, if they are accountable, then the issue of productivity will there come up in the first place, where you unnecessarily put people to come over to your place of worship and you just push words to them, and at the end of the day, their productive time is wasted. And when you now see the kind of money that comes in there, some form of taxation, if it comes in, I'm sure that things might change on the one hand. And let's just make it...
Who is taxing who?
Government taxing some of these social institutions by looking at the books. It may not necessarily be, when they even tinker with that law in terms of the regulatory framework, in terms of registration for churches, And I think the whole country almost went on fire because that will not favor some of the leaders who are the founders of those churches. And these churches, let's be truthful, and run like family businesses where the hierarchy in terms of who become a leader move from mother to son, from father to children, as the case might be. But quickly, before you move on, you have countries like Japan and China where religion is subdued to a very large extent, and they become very prosperous and very productive. And these people that you call...
Is religion subdued in Japan and China?
Yes, subdued in the sense that...
They are very religious too.
No, they know. What I mean is that it doesn't become a common denominator.
They don't put it in your face.
No, even in practice, because they are driven by other values. Okay? So they don't practice this kind of currency where everything is based on prosperity and people don't go to work. China, the same thing. Then these people manufacture items for you and you use them, and sometimes they brag about some of the equipment they have brought. Even go to India, where a lot of these electronic equipment, gadgets are manufactured that we use here. So we're just consuming. It's the same, the creative force that brought us into being.
That brought them to.
And they are making advances in terms of technology.
Okay. Let me just hold this thought. I'm coming back to you. Now, sometime last week, less than 7 days ago, I won't mention the name, a particular church denomination is trying to bring in a collaboration, a partnership with a tire-making factory, an Asian country, to Nigeria to establish an industry. Directly. A church, which means it's possible to go that route if they really wanted to go that route.
Of course.
Am I making sense? Now, let's now break this down. We have the numbers, because this is where my anger is. We have the numbers. Take, for example, we go to the north, which happens to be the poverty capital of this country. They have the numbers. You're looking at me, you're shocked? Yes. They have the numbers. At what point in time can we say, hey, dear religious leaders in this place, get these people to work? Because they have the farms, they have the land, they have the majority part of the land. So how can we say, these people, get them to work? Because we need to start holding people responsible.
I think the point here is that if we canvass this position, the point that the number of faithfuls, based on the argument you're just trying to draw up here, if people are told the truth, the number of followership, incidentally, will reduce.
Will dwindle.
It will dwindle.
Correct.
And to that extent, the people that you give the opium in terms of what you preach and not what you practice will be disentangled or disengaged from those belief systems. And it becomes imperative that the so-called men of God, no apologies at all on this concept. Everybody has a direct trajectory to God. Those people, in terms of what they command in society, will reduce tremendously. So the practice is that people should get into their various holy books, whatever shape their values, whatever shape their practice, and begin to look at the books critically and look the other way for the so-called leaders who have put them in one way thinking, if you permit that word, over a period of time. And we are not adding, first and foremost, in some cases, to personal productivity. Even family productivity, before you talk about the national productivity. Some people just feel that the church is there, a miracle is going to come, then there's no need for enterprise. And that is very dangerous for a nation.
Okay. Now, Mr. Sam did quote a particular verse. I think I want to go back there for you. And he said, I will bless the works of your hands now. Which means there should be work that your hand is doing.
Correct.
Good. Now, you brought up the idea of praying for miracles. So now I ask you, what exactly work is that prayer going to work on?
That's where we talk about being productive. Not just after you pray, you go out and work. Because when you have the understanding that you have prayed, God now says he will bless the works of your hands. So if he finds nothing to bless, what's going to happen? So what people are doing now is, God has said he will do his own part. You have your own part to do. They're not doing their own part, which is working and being productive. Many people worry about the now. It's microwave, like it's the microwave era. You want it now. You have heard and seen fraudsters pray before they go hit people. You have heard armed robbers pray before they go out on hits. That is the social engineering I've been talking about. People take, for instance, the word grace, people take it for granted. They're like, okay, once, I'm in this church or in this worship place, everything will go good for me, which is a misnomer. It's far from the truth, because opposite is the case. Because no one says it's going to be easy for you to do the right thing, walk upright, pray, and then go to work. People would rather pray and just sit down.
Okay, now while they pray and sit down, we have seen in our religious circles, we have seen the Muslims call it sadaqah, where they give food on irregular or give some other items. The Christian bodies and some other churches also practice that on the regular, where they help the poor and the less privileged within their midst or in the society. Some even go beyond that, build schools for a community, provide, like somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria, I know they're providing some form of transportation around. But now, all this is beautiful. All this is commendable. But now, at the end of the day, how long will you keep giving somebody a fish before you tell the person, go and fish, or teach the person how to fish? Is it possible, I know some denominations and some religious bodies do this, is it possible to start bringing in business teachings? Just like you said, entrepreneurial teachings into these bodies, into religious organizations, whereby you're not just, you come, your spirit is taught, your soul is lifted, and your head is put well. So is it possible to start having that combination, where we can have spirit, soul, body, and companies come in, seek partnership, seek how to enlarge the coast, and we know that, yes, we are growing from here?
That's possible, and I wouldn't mention no names, but I know people that, certain bodies that are doing that, certain churches are doing that, and that I'm a witness to.
Okay.
So periodically, they call heads of industries, they offer jobs. Okay, if you need jobs, there are platforms you can send in if you have CVs, if you're a fresh person, they train you and point in the right direction. I know, that's why I said to you that majority are socially engineering the people to be unproductive, to default and resort to them for the handouts that we just talked about earlier on. We give you those foods weekly. You come to church, you take a food pack home, so you're like, okay, that food pack will do for me. I don't need to go and work. I plan that free food into my day, which is a misnomer. Again, so that people that do that, and it works, people are being, they give them, their spirits are lifted to work. They're pushed, they're encouraged to go out there and work after hearing the word. After saying, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do, then you go out there and do it. So that is possible only if you are doing it. We need more people getting on board to make the people more productive.
Okay, getting a few do it. We are almost running out of time. Let's have your round up on this. If you are speaking to the congregation, if you're speaking to the leadership, if you're speaking to the community around those worship places, or if you're speaking to the government, what will you tell them to do?
I think the church leaders across boards, including African traditional religion practitioners, must find a way to diffuse themselves from the concept of overt prosperity without work. They must encourage their congregants are to be involved in entrepreneurship, create enterprise. People must work. And this gospel of now must be stopped in the sense that nobody can sustain himself where you are not productive. Therefore, churches must find a way to focus just on spirituality in terms of speaking and nourishing the souls of the congregants rather than focusing on this economic prosperity. You sow a seed, then that seed will provide the millions of naira where you don't have a base. And then the ownership in terms of control mechanisms of the church need to rework where these churches need to leave families to a body of congregants that has power to supervise the church so that the craze for wealth which the church, modern day churches and African religion practice encourages will help us to drive productivity.
Okay, Ikenna,
yes.
Your last take.
Finally, I would like to categorically state that much more is expected from the worship centers, from the church leaders, from the imams, head of the mosques. A lot more is expected from them, and they should do more. And on the side of the people, when the leaders do more, they are automatically making the people be more productive, because by the time they change this conscious or unconscious social engineering, the people get to know that these are the right things for us to do.
Okay, thank you very much. You've heard it from our guest, Mr. Sam and Ikenna, and it's been a pleasure having you here. Remember this, we have the numbers in those worship centers. We have the numbers in those mosques, in those churches, in those traditional places. And you are the people responsible to get productive. It is not angels, neither is it spirits. You are the people. Yes, you that is listening, you are the people expected to get productive. So tomorrow when you get to the church or the mosque or your worship place and you see that things are not being done or said that will get the congregation productive, say something. Don't just sit and wait for a miracle. You are the miracle that has been created. So be productive. My name is Chuks, John-Rogers Chuks. We'll do this again tomorrow. Bye.